Hello everyone, my name is Aliar and you're watching TecTalk. Today we are going to talk about Python. Of course, we have started a series on Python, and today we are talking about list in Python. So what is the agenda for today? Let's go to the screen and see it. So we are basically going to talk about lists today. What is list? Why do we have lists? And we will have a proper introduction of a list in simple terms, and then we'll talk about adding and changing elements in the list, and then we'll talk about taking slice out of them. Then we talk about deleting and removing elements from the list, and at last we are going to talk about probing in list in Python. So let's go to it. So here, for example, we have chapter 15 in a book, A Smarter Way to Learn Python. So why do we have list in Python? Actually, a list is basically a data type in Python, or a variable, a kind of variable that we use to store various values of the same kind. So the definition here is that a list is a variable type that can have a sequence of values assigned to it. In a list, these values are known as elements. For example, in a working environment, we are working to build some app for cities, let's say, and now we want to store cities of Pakistan. How are we going to store the cities? And you will answer that we studied in variable for strings, that strings are stored in variable called string, or these are text, so we will store in a string. For example, you would say that city 1 is equals to, let's say, Karachi, and then let me copy it and let me say 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So these are the 5 cities, Islamabad, let's say, and then we have Lahore, then we have Peshawar, and then we have let's say Rawalpindi. So these are the 5 city that I want to store in my database, or I want to process them in my application. So how am I going to do that? You definitely will say that, okay, you have multiple cities, so you will have multiple variables for each city, and therefore you have 5 cities, thereby you have 5 variables. So this has become mess, because I want all the cities to be together. I don't know the memory allocation in the memory. So if I have Karachi in one place, then I would have Islamabad in another place. I'm talking about the memory. So what I want to say is I want to store all these cities in one place. So I can use list for that. For example, if I say cities, so definitely lists always start with plural. It's a rule of thumb that you can use, that the name of the list always starts with a plural. So I have cities, and this square bracket is used in Python to declare or to indicate list that we have in Python. So in other languages such as C and C++, we called it array, but here we call it list. So I want to store all these cities. How am I going to store them? For example, I want to store Karachi, and then I want to store Islamabad, then I want to store Lahore, then I want to store Rawalpindi. See how beautifully and organized kind of data variable I have in the list. So this is why whenever I want to store a related thing in one place, so I can access it, I can delete it, I can update it whenever I want. So we use list. So let's go to the book and read what it says about lists. So it says that if you have 5 cities, let's say, you want to store them like this, and whenever you want to access them, you write their names and you will get the city. But instead of doing that, we have a list where we have a single name, and in that single name we store all the variables, for example cities in our case. So we can store like this, and whenever we want to access them, we can easily access all the cities at one place. So this is how the list is declared, and in simple terms, list is basically used in Python to store similar values in one place, or related values in one place, so we can access them easily and update them easily and work with them easily in our development environment. So now what can we have multiple data types in a list? Yes, we can definitely have multiple data type in a list. For example, if I want to store details of student, let's say details I want to store in a list. For example, I want to say name is, let's say I have name, and then I have age, which is 20 years, and then I have pass or true or false. So these three details means the first is I have the name of the student, the second is I have the age of the student, and the third is whether he passed the exam or failed the exam. So we can have multiple data types, numbers, string, boolean, inside the list, and we can have similar data type in the list as well. So let me tell you here that we can access the data in a list through indexes. So how we are, and remember this, that whenever we are talking about access in any programming language, the index, whenever we are talking about index in any programming language, it always starts with 0. For example, if I want to access Karachi, I would say print I am from Karachi, and Karachi is the city which I want to access from the city. So I will write the array name or the list name, and inside that, I will write the index of that city. For example, the index always starts with 0 in a list. Remember this, the index always starts with list. So the first element in array is starting from 0. So that's why I have Karachi in the first in the first place. So that's why I wrote here 0. So now let's run the program. What do we get here? Okay, so I am from Karachi. Now the Karachi is dynamic value. I didn't write the value of Karachi hard coded. I just access that from the list itself. So if Karachi is at 0 index, Islamabad will be at 1 index, Lahore will be at index 3, and Peshawar will be at index 4, and Rawalpindi will be at index 4. So if I want to access Rawalpindi, I will write 4. And since I have 5 elements in the list, and the first element lies in in the index number 1, I am going to get Rawalpindi at index number 4. So let me run this, and let's see, I got Rawalpindi. So remember this, that whenever you want to access the first element of a list, you start with 0. All the lists starts with 0. So let's go to the book and read that what are the things that we need to remember when we are dealing with lists. Let's go to the book. So it says that things to keep in mind. The first element in a list always has index 0, not 1. Usually what we do is we start counting from 1. 0 does not mean anything to it. It is empty. But in list, it has a meaning. In list, the first element lies at 0 index. Okay. So the second thing that we need to remember is that the same naming rule you learn from ordinary variable. Only letters, numbers, and underscore are legal. The rules that we studied for variables in the first lecture or the second lecture about declaring the names of variables for numbers, for string, and for whatever variables we have, the same applies for lists. Remember this. So it's a good idea to make list names plural. Cities instead of city, for example, since a list usually contains multiple things. I talked about it at the start. But whenever you want to declare a list, you should start it with plural. It is not necessary that you should start with plural. You should declare the name of variable of list with plural, but it is conventional. You can do it because a list makes sense when you store multiple things in it. It is not used for one thing, because if it were used for one thing, we would have declared a single variable or something like that. So we are storing multiple things, that's why we are going to give this array a plural name. Now let's talk about adding or changing elements. So the values that we have in the list separated by comma are called elements. Remember this. So adding and changing elements, that how can we add elements and or change the elements in a list. So we will take help from the above code. Let me print it so we will not get disturbed by that. I'll copy the city's name for explanation. So now let's talk about first adding to the list. So how can we add something to a list. So for adding something into the list, you just remember this one method. It is called append. It is definitely a method or a function that we will use to append something at the end of the list. For example, if I want to put the name of a city after Rawalpindi, I am going to use append. For example, I want to add another city. So let's see, cities dot append, and I'm going to give string. So I am going to write let's say Mardan. Let's say Mardan. So this what this line is going to do is, this line is going to add Mardan at the end of this list. So next time I will print cities, I am going to get the whole list including Mardan. So let me print the whole list after adding or after appending Mardan to it. Let me print cities. Let me save it and let me run it. See, Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, Peshawar, Rawalpindi, and then at the end of the list I got Mardan. So whenever you want to add at the end of the list something, then you use the method append. Remember this. So now I want to add multiple cities at the end of the list. So how am I going to do that? So that's very simple. We call it concatenation. We have talked about it in our videos. For example, let's say I want to add a city A and a city B to cities. So I already have Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, Peshawar, Rawalpindi, and then Mardan. Then I'm going to add two more cities A and B to the cities. And if I print this, and if I print this, I'm going to get two more cities added to the end of the list. So the point is, whenever you want to add something in the list at the end of the list, not at the start but at the end of the list, you are going to use the method append, and you are going to use the method of concatenation. Now there is another method which we can use to insert data or element in a list, which is called insert. So this method is called insert method. How am I going to use this? Let me comment this so it does not disturb us. Let me copy, let me cut this and paste it here. Now insert method, what insert method does, for example, I am saying that I want to insert cities dot insert. Okay, I'm saying that at 0 index, okay, at 0 index I want to include city Chitral. Let's say Chitral is a city in the northern areas of Pakistan. So for example, I said that I want to include the name of the city called Chitral at index 0. At the index 0, right? Currently I have Karachi stored at city at index 0 in the cities list. I don't want that. I want to replace Karachi with Chitral. So I had done that. Now I have done that. Now let me print and see what it is going to give me. So what it did is that it got this the list cities, the name of the list is cities, and then it uses insert method. So insert method, we have two arguments. The first argument is the index of the element, whichever element I want to replace, and then the second argument is that the name of the city which I want to put at index 0. So what it did is it put Chitral, the city Chitral, at first index and then pushed all the cities forward. For example, if Karachi was at index 0, it got at index 2 and then so on and so forth. And I got Rawalpindi at index 6th now. It's not index 5th now because I have now 6 cities, and since list starts with 0 index and then ends with Rawalpindi, so Rawalpindi, I have 6 elements in the list. That's why Rawalpindi stays at the 5th index of the list. I hope you understand. It's quite complicated for the first time when you are starting it, but when you will do it over and over again, you will be able to understand it. So now I want to replace let's say I want to replace Islamabad. I don't want to replace Islamabad. I want the city Chitral to be at index 1 instead of Islamabad, and I want all the element push forward one step forward, and I want all the elements pushed one step forward. So let's say now, and let's save it and run it. See, now I got a Chitral at index 1 at place 2, index 1, remember this, and I got all the elements, rest of the elements, Islamabad, Lahore, Peshawar and Rawalpindi got one step pushed ahead. Okay, so that's very easy, you don't need to be confused. So whenever you want to add something at the end of the list, we are going to use append, and whenever we want to add a list at some index, then we are going to use insert method. Now there is another way to do it, another way to, let's say, to change the element in the list. For example, I am saying that I want the city's 0 index to be replaced with Chhatral. Now this is a very different method. Let's save it and now let's run it. What do we get? I didn't print cities, I'm sorry. Now see, if I want to replace, it's very interesting. If I want to replace an element in the list with another element, for example, I replaced Karachi with Chitral using this method. What I said that I want the 0 index to be Chitral, not to be Karachi. So it was Karachi when since I access the elements in the list using this method, I write the name of the list, I start square bracket, and then I give the index of the element, and then I close the square bracket. So it means that I'm accessing the element which is there at index 0. So what I said that index 0 element in cities list should be replaced with Chhatral. So in the case of insert, what we did in the insert method, what the insert method does, it replace the element at particular index and pushed all the element one step ahead. But this method where I am accessing the element using the indexing method, and this method basically replaces the element itself. It does not pushes all the elements ahead, it replaces the element in that particular index. So this is this is also a very good concept to remember. You can practice and you will definitely understand this. Now let's talk about slicing in list. Slicing is very easy concept, and it's, as its name suggests, that a slice means a piece of something. So when you go to Broadway or Baba John or something like that, you order pizza, and when that pizza comes, what you do is you divide it into pieces. You take a slice out of it and then you eat it. So same goes here. You have a list of cities and you want to access particular cities, 2 or 3 cities in the list, not all the cities in the list. For example, I have a list called cities, and I have Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, Peshawar, and let's say Rawalpindi. So I want to access 3 cities out of it. I want to access Islamabad, Lahore and Peshawar. I want to skip Rawalpindi and I want to skip Karachi. So these one from the start and one from the end. So I can definitely take help from slicing. For example, let's say wanted cities. What cities do I want in this variable called wanted cities? I don't want Karachi. So we use semicolon here for slicing. This number, this is called start of the slicing, and this is called end of the slicing. These are index numbers. These are simply index numbers. So please remember that the start index, let me write here for you so you can understand. The start index, and this is the end index. Okay. So please remember that the start index, the element at the start index, will be included in the sliced list. However, the element in the end index in the slicing will not be included in the sliced list. So what do I mean by that? For example, I want to skip Karachi, so I will start with index 1. I put index 1. So I will not get the Karachi in my wanted cities. I will get Islamabad because at 1 I have Islamabad. Then I have end index. So the end index, I want to get Peshawar. So since the end index will not be included in the list, I need to start one step ahead of Peshawar. For I will take the index number of this. So 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I will say I want the element starting from index number 1 till index number 4. The index number 4 will not be included in the list. Let me show you how. So how it is done? I have a variable called wanted list. Then I have the name of the list, cities, and then I said that in this cities, from these cities, I want to get the element at the start at index 1. So index 1 element will be included, and then I said that I want to avoid index number 4, the value at index number 4, but rest of the element should be included. So I will not include Rawalpindi in the list, and I will only get Islamabad, Lahore and Peshawar. So let me save it and let me run it. I didn't print it, sorry. Let me print the wanted cities. See, I got Islamabad, Lahore and Peshawar. I got 3 elements from the list, from the whole list. I did not get the element at 4, although I have written 4 here, but I got the element at index first, because this is the rule to remember, that the in slicing especially, the value at the starting index of a slicing will be included in the list. However, the value or the element at the end of the slicing index will not be included in the values. For example, 1, Islamabad was an index 1. It was included in the list because I got Islamabad here. Then I put here 4, and 4 is the index of this, which itself is not included in the list. I hope you understand it. Now, if I want to say that I want to include all the elements. I want to include all the elements starting from 0, but I don't want to include Rawalpindi. I want all the element. Let me tell you again. I want all the element starting from index 0 till the index of Rawalpindi. I don't want to include Rawalpindi itself, but I want to include all the elements except Rawalpindi. So what I'll change here is I will put here no starting point, so it will understand that all the elements. From where do I need all the elements? It says that 4 index should be excluded. Rest of the element should be included. So if I save it and I print it, I'm going to get Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore and Peshawar. I did not get Rawalpindi. So similarly, if I am saying that start with index number 1 or start with index number 2 and all the elements after it. So if I save it and I print it, I'm going to get Lahore, Peshawar, Rawalpindi. So 0, 1, 2. So it was at index 2. Lahore was at index 2. I said that from index 2 onwards, all the elements. Then I got Peshawar, Rawalpindi. So this is how you can slice the list to access multiple elements from the list in different ways. Now let's talk about deleting and removing elements from the list. As always, we have cities as a list, as an array, and I want to delete Islamabad. I'm not comfortable with Islamabad in the list, so I'm saying that I want to remove, or I want to delete Islamabad from the list. So what I can do is I've simply called a del command, and then I'm going to write cities, and then I'm going to give the index. So at what index do I have Islamabad? I have Islamabad at 1 index. So now if I print Islamabad, if I print the cities list, let's say if I now print the cities list, I'm not going to get Islamabad because I have denoted. See, I got Karachi, Lahore, Peshawar and Rawalpindi. So whenever I want to remove something from the list, what I can do is delete from the list. Definitely I will use this del command. Del means delete. I am basically telling Python to do something for me. I'm saying that delete, go into the first index of the city list and delete it from the variable. So it will look for cities and it will see that where is the index 1, and it will find it and it will remove it from the list. And when I then print the list, I'm going to get this simple variable or simple list where I do not have Islamabad included. The other method which is used to remove element from the list is simply I am saying that I want to remove dot remove, as its name suggests. I'm saying that I want to remove Rawalpindi. Let's say I have to give the name of the variable which I want to remove from the list. Now if I go ahead and print the list, I'm not going to get Rawalpindi. So these are the two methods. One is used for deleting the element. The second is used to remove the element. What is the difference? The difference is that in the first method we are going to use the index. If we know the index of the element in the list, then we are simply going to target that index and it will delete for us. But sometimes it happens that we do not know the index because we have large amount of data in the list. So we only know the name of, for example, I know the name of Salman, and I said that okay, so remove all the details of Salman from the list. So these are the two methods that we used to delete and remove elements from the list. So the last thing we are going to look at in this particular lecture is popping the element from the list. So what is popping? Let's go and see. Let me copy the list and let me comment it so we will not be disturbed by that. So let me paste it here. Now let's say I want to pop something of the list. Popping means is removing something from the list. So if I say cities dot pop method, and if I say that 0, okay, or 1, and then I print the cities again, what am I going to get? Let's see. So I got Islamabad out of the list. So what I told Python is that go to the cities list and then pop the element which is at index 1. So if I do not write anything in it and then run it, what am I going to get? I'm going to get Rawalpindi out of the list, because if we do not give index to it, it will remove the last element of the list that we have. So please remember that when we want to add something at the start of the list, at the end of the list, we are going to use append method, and when we want to remove the last element of the list, we want to use pop method. So pop method is basically used to remove the last element, or if we want to remove some elements in some index, then we are going to pass the number of the index and it is going to remove that element from the list. So it's like removing element from the list. So that's it for now. We talked about list in Python. I tried to give you example and make you understand what list is in Python. If you like the video, consider subscribing to the channel, like and share with people who want to learn Python. And if you have any question regarding the concepts of Python, or especially list for from today's lecture, you can ask them below in the comment. Subscribe TecTalk. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.